Iris had been on Cathera Prime for exactly 3 solar cycles when she made the mistake. That would change her life forever. The mistake wasn't landing on a planet dominated by the Vraks, apex predators, who stood 9 feet tall with obsidian claws and teeth designed to rend metal. It wasn't even accepting the research position studying their pack dynamics in the northern territories. No, the mistake was kneeling down to examine a Vrax cub who had been whimpering near the forest edge. "Hey there, little one," Iris had whispered, her trained medic instincts overriding her survival ones. The cub, no larger than a wolf pup but infinitely more dangerous, had a thorn embedded deep in its massive paw. Without thinking, Iris pulled out her field kit and extracted it, applying a quick syntheskin patch. The cub had licked her face, a gesture that nearly gave her a heart attack, and bounded away. That should have been the end of it. Otis found her 2 days later, surrounded by 17 Virax cubs. "Iris." His voice crackled through the comms as he approached the research outpost. Why is there a queue of juvenile Vrax outside your habitat?" Iris looked up from the cub whose ear she was examining. A minor infection, easily treatable. "I have no idea. They just keep showing up." Otis, her fellow researcher and the station's xenobiologist, stared at the scene before him with the expression of a man watching reality break. The cubs, each one capable of taking down a full-grown human, sat in an orderly line. They weren't aggressive. They were waiting. "Iris, they think you're a healer," Otis said slowly, his mind working through the implications. "The Vrax don't have medicine. They have dominance and survival of the fittest. But you fixed one of them." The cub Iris was examining chirped, an impossibly cute sound from a creature with retractable titanium hard claws, and nuzzled into her hands. "They're just babies," Iris protested, applying antibacterial gel to the infected ear. "Look at this one. Without treatment, this infection could have spread to his brain. They're not babies. They're apex predators who will grow up to hunt starships for sport," Otis countered, but he was already pulling out his datapad, recording everything. This was unprecedented. By the end of the week, adult Vrax began appearing. The first was a massive female scarred from countless hunts, one eye milky with blindness. She approached the outpost at dawn, moving with the lethal grace that made the Virax the most feared species in 3 sectors. Iris and Otis watched from behind reinforced glass as she sat down outside the entrance and waited. "She's not leaving," Otis observed after 2 hours. "No," Iris agreed. "She's not." Iris made a decision that Otis would later describe as either the bravest or most idiotic thing he'd ever witnessed. She opened the door. The Vrax female didn't attack. She lowered her massive head and made a low, rumbling sound that vibrated through the ground. Then she turned her blind eye toward Iris. Understanding flooded through Iris. "You want me to look at your eye?" Over the next hour, with Otis watching in frozen horror, Iris examined the damaged eye. The cornea was scarred beyond repair, but the socket showed signs of chronic infection. With careful movements and a lot of faith in her medical training, Iris cleaned the wound, applied regenerative nanites, and covered it with a protective patch. The Vrax female touched her forehead to Iris's, a gesture Otis's database identified as a clan bonding ritual, and left. She returned the next day with 3 other adults. Within a month, Iris had become the unofficial physician to the entire northern clan. Her days consisted of treating everything from infected wounds to parasitic infections, from broken claws to complications from difficult births. The Vrax, who had never known medicine, who had always culled the weak, discovered that healing was an option. Otis documented everything, his scientific papers growing increasingly frantic in tone. "Humans," he wrote in one report, "continued to export their most baffling trait to the galaxy, compassion that defies survival logic." The turning point came when the clan matriarch herself arrived, a creature so ancient and battle-scarred that legends claimed she'd killed a warship crew single-handedly. She was limping. Iris examined the matriarch's hip, finding advanced arthritis grinding bone against bone with every step. It should have been untreatable, but Iris had access to human medical technology designed for a species too stubborn to accept physical limitations. She performed the injection series over 3 weeks. Regenerative stem cells, anti-inflammatory compounds, and lubricating fluids designed to rebuild cartilage. The matriarch endured each treatment with stoic silence. When she walked without limping for the first time in years, she made a declaration in the Vrax language that Otis's translator struggled to interpret. The closest approximation was, "The small soft thing is clan, the small soft thing is protected, the small soft thing is precious." Within 6 months, every Vrax clan within 300 kilometers had established what Otis called medical migration routes to Iris's outpost. She had to expand her facility 3 times. The Galactic Council, baffled by reports of Vrax peacefully queuing for medical attention, sent observers. They found Iris giving vaccinations to a line of cubs, while adult Vrax hunters, creatures that had terrorized shipping lanes for centuries, waited patiently for their scheduled appointments. How? The council representative asked Otis, watching Iris bandage a warrior's slashed forearm while chatting casually about his hunting success. Otis had spent months considering this question. Humans, he finally said, have this incredibly dangerous habit. They see something in pain, and their first instinct isn't to assess threat level or survival advantage. It's to help. They can't stop themselves. And somehow, impossibly, the entire galaxy keeps bending around that one irrational impulse. The representative watched as the clan matriarch herself entered for her monthly checkup. Lowering her massive head so Iris could examine her eyes, she'd been having trouble with her remaining good one. The Vrax bowed to no one. The representative whispered. "They don't see it as bowing," Otis explained. "They see it as trust. And Iris earned that trust by doing what humans do best, caring when common sense says they shouldn't." That evening, as twin moons rose over Cathera Prime, Iris sat in her expanded clinic reviewing the next day's appointment schedule. 43 scheduled visits, 2 emergency slots held open, and a note that the Southern Clan was sending representatives to discuss establishing a satellite clinic. Otis brought her coffee, actual coffee, shipped at enormous expense from Earth. "You realize you've accidentally revolutionized Vrax society," he said. Iris smiled, watching through the window as cubs played outside under the watchful eyes of their parents who would have let those same cubs die of treatable conditions just 1 year ago. "I just pulled out a thorn," she said. "You pulled out a thorn," Otis agreed, "and somehow convinced the galaxy's most dangerous predators to invent preventative medicine. Very human of you." Outside, a cub howled, not in pain but in play. Inside, Iris checked her medical supplies and prepared for another day of the impossible.